Back now.
Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to Little City's virtual town hall. I am hosting once again with our Executive Director, Sean Jeffers. Little City's Chief Development Officer, Jane Drew, is here as well, and she will be fielding questions from you. So please use the live event Q&A box to enter your questions, and we will get to as many as we possibly can within the next hour. For now, we will be answering the most common questions submitted prior to this evening. It's been 6 months since our last town hall, and it's hard to believe that that much time has gone by already. But in that time, quite a lot has changed. 6 months ago, we were dealing with an alarming surge in COVID cases, and now here we are. Vaccines are readily available. 94% of our adult residents have been vaccinated. Programs throughout the organization have been gradually reopening with safety precautions as our top priority. New homes are opening and existing homes are being renovated, and we are all adjusting to a new sort of normal. In fact, this past Monday, we held our annual golf outing, resulting in an exciting return to in-person events. But without question, the pandemic dealt Little City challenges that we fought head on. COVID made a significant impact on Little City, and that impact, both short-term and long-term, will be addressed. Additionally, Sean will share where we are today regarding staffing and programming for our participants. And finally, we will use this hour to share with you what we know about Little City's future as a result of the pandemic. So let's get started. Sean, thank you as always for your enthusiasm in using this platform to connect with our staff and families. I know you have a lot you would like to say this evening. Do you have any opening comments before we get to some of the questions?
Well, Tina, I thought your opening was exceptional to actually kind of reveal that our agenda has changed. I remember, 6 months ago, 9 months, a year ago, the major concern was the growth of our COVID number, whether or not it was on the staff side or on the resident side. And I'm so happy that our meetings and our agenda has moved from the fear of a rising number of cases to now beginning to talk about our opportunities for growth. And so my hope this evening is that it's not one of promoting fear or, gosh, we're in a bad place, but I think I will be successful and our team will be successful if people walk away from this with a renewed passion, a renewed energy, and a renewed sense of optimism, because that's exactly what I feel. I am energized by the possibilities that are in front of us. Now, they're not without obstacle, and that's what we'll talk about. But I think the future for Little City Foundation is extremely bright. And it's excitedly bright, and I want to yell it from the mountaintops that we are back, and we're coming back with, I think, energy and passion.
Thank you so much, Sean. I think we all can kind of have a sense of relief here as, it's 15 months in and we're pretty much on the other side of this. So thank you. So let's begin.
I do want to add something to that, and I apologize for not bringing it up a little bit earlier. I even my personal life, you look for evidence that this thing is completely gone away. And depending on watching newspapers, you hear about this variant that's floating out there. You when you meet people, you don't know if you should handshake, fist bump, or walk the other way. There's still some of that out there, and so I think what makes it different for us is I don't care what's thrown at us. We've learned a lot over the past year. Clearly, there are moments that I'm going to don a mask, if I'm going to get on an airplane or go to an airport or be in some environments that I'm unfamiliar with. So when we say it's over, it doesn't mean that we go back to exactly what our life was. We make the adjustment. And so if something were to happen in Little City where we see a change in conditions, I'm very confident, Tina, that we will respond appropriately. We're going to always do that. So it has enlighten us. I think as flu season comes around, there's some things we need to do differently. So I'm hoping that we all take away from this experience the good things that we learn that we're going to continue even as we view ourselves as being out of the pandemic.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, so let's get right to it, if you don't mind. Let's begin by talking about that impact of COVID-19. For almost a year and a half, COVID forced our biggest in-person fundraisers to be canceled, and our resources have obviously been strained. So understandably, there must have been a financial toll on the organization. And specifically, Gail wants to know, what is the financial status of Little City?
So Tina, about 6 months ago, and particularly a little bit before that, if we were looking at it in medical terms, we were in critical condition. We were we were not convinced that government would rise to the occasion, or that the loans that were going out there, which initially went for commercial enterprises, would apply to us. We were seeing significant declines in the number of individuals who came to our programs. We saw and experienced the biggest drop in revenue that at least in the 18 years I've been at Little, was the biggest drop in revenue that we've ever experienced. But what happened since then, and Jane shared with me in preparation for a report that I gave to my board, our donor community has really stepped up. They didn't make up 100% of what that loss was, but the trends in terms of people stepping in have been phenomenal. We were lucky, I think through advocacy, we ended up being eligible for the payroll protection dollars. So that allowed us, even during this pandemic, were it not for that, Tina, we would have laid off a substantial number of our workers, primarily in community day services, and possibly school, if again the PPP was not present. And so we were very fortunate that through our donative efforts, through some cost-saving measures on our part, and through the federal relief funds, it kept us afloat. We are ending the year relatively strong, given all the things that potentially went wrong. And so as we move ahead, so I would move it from critical to guarded, because there are some things that we must do if we're going to, I think, survive post-pandemic. The governor has just, I think, made a huge investment in the human service system. Our financial people, Chris and Karen and their team and Ryan, are looking at how will that benefit Little City. Right now, we are looking at an increase in our rates, in terms of government reimbursement for rates. There's been a modest increase there to help us keep up with what the wage pressures are and what the service pressures are. So we're in a far better place than I would have anticipated 12 months ago, or even 6 months ago, as we move ahead. And we'll talk a little bit later about what does that mean. I think it gives us, in coming into July 1, a very good opportunity to have one of our best years ever. As you mentioned, our golf outing, I'm waiting for, Jane to reveal those numbers, but if I measured it by way of enthusiasm, by way of participation, by way of the generosity I observed in the room, we're coming out the gate strong. So the financial status, we're not out the water. I don't think any nonprofit organization is, but we're not at a place that I'm fearful of not meeting payroll or turning people away who need our services, or turning the lights out, or telling, Bill not to make the improvements in the homes that we need to make, et cetera. So we're in a very good place right now as an organization from a financial status.
That's hopefully very reassuring for everybody to hear. I know when I'm in the office and in the homes, it's certainly lively. Like we said, we have new homes opening, homes being renovated. So we wouldn't be able to do that, if we were in that, critical condition like you had mentioned. So thank you. Next, I will say that we had quite a few questions regarding Countryside and our day services programming. There's a lot of concern there, and we had that special town hall late last year that addressed Countryside and what we need from our families, to have a successful reopening. And here we are. Again, a lot of questions, as you can see. But as everybody knows, that probably most significantly, COVID did impact our day services programming. From being completely suspended in the beginning of COVID to our gradual reopening late last year, day services doesn't quite look the same as it did in 2019. So Larry wants to know what's going on with Countryside. Nancy is asking about the future of Countryside, and Denise wants to know what is the future of the day program? Will there be any jobs for our participants? Clearly a lot of uncertainty there. Sean, can you address those concerns?
I sure can, and I think everything that we say, let's timestamp it because it can change. And so, my assessment and comments now are reflective of the moment, just where we are. When we last met, Tina, with the families involved with Countryside, there was some question, not only when people would come back, but if they would come back. And so the answer that I had given at that time was in the context of what happens if no one returns. And that's where we talked about repurposing, doing some other things in the building. Clearly it is an asset to Little City, the physical space. We would not want it to sit dormant. And so number of families took a reasonable kind of assertion there that the program won't come back. And so as we sit 6 months later, at least the indications from Wendy and Casey and Kelly is that people are coming back. They're coming back in a way that gives us confidence, not only about its future, but just what's going to happen programmatically. They're coming back excitedly. Now, some of the challenges that we face there, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is the CDC and the public health restrictions that are imposed of us make it difficult to serve the numbers of people that we would like to serve in that setting. And so the team is kind of tasked with looking at other environments so that we can safely provide services to people who would have ordinarily gone to Countryside, because I've not spoken directly with Wendy in the last day or so, but their concern was the number of people who came back with the space restrictions. What will we do? So we're going to make sure, Tina, that everyone who desires to come back, that we're going to try and accommodate in the best and safest way. So Countryside is, you go through, the energy is coming back, the people are excitedly returning, but again, we have to make sure that people are grouped appropriately. There's still the notion of vaccinated people with vaccinated people, people who live together, stay together. So we're still operating not where it is just get back to the way that it was. It's going to be different. And so with Nancy's concern about future, I think that future is very bright in terms of being a very successful day service option for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. When the question that Denise is raising about jobs, one issue that's still looming out there is the future of 14C or sub-minimum wage work. And it's not completely off the table, but it is something that we continue to struggle with. And I think the team is really tasked with coming up with sufficient, exciting alternative things that can be done in the absence of 14C sub-minimum wage work. We also advocate that we want to make sure that those individuals who do want to work get real work and get work that's either integrated in community settings or still gives them that opportunity to get an income, get a check. And so, we will, at least in the Countryside Center, probably see some continuing decline in the sub-minimum wage work, but doesn't mean that the program is shutting down. Now, if jobs means the staff jobs, there is it's almost like, is he talking out of both sides of his mouth? Because we will potentially lose some staff positions based on the decline in census. And so the PPP did allow us, Tina, to hold on to our staff despite the fact that the numbers of people there were lower. And as we come out of the PPP, we have to staff it based on the number of people being served. And so you will see potentially some notices of layoff to some of our individuals as we try and right size it. My hope is that it's short term. And if it speeds up even faster, we want to get those people back. But if there's no residents to be served there at the same numbers or number of people returning, we are going to have to adjust our staff and day services to account for that. My hope is that those individuals will choose to work in other places within our organization where there are vacancies.
And with all those questions that came through concerning Countryside and our day services, I did want to highlight a few things that Wendy, Kelly, and their team have pointed out. And it's the protocol. Like you said, because of the pandemic, we've certainly learned a lot, and that has adjusted how we're providing our services. So where we are today right now is our participants are continuing to follow, and our staff is continuing to follow CDC and IDPH guidelines, and that's including masking, face shields when they can, and social distancing for individuals who do not live together. That's where we are right now. Additionally, our Little City residents have been joining day program for partial days throughout this entire month of June in preparation for full program return on July 6th, which is very exciting. And in the majority of the cases, the residents will stay with housemates. Several residents are already back to work at enclaves or even at the horticulture center, so that's promising. Also, the number of community participants continues to grow. Those individuals that are returning. It's a great sign. Individuals are placed in groups and stay with their groups throughout the day to minimize contact as we can. That's one thing that we've learned. Instruction is brought in through DSPs and facilitators, and that's how we are running those programs. And for now, there will be limited movement by participants. We will introduce focus areas of choice, such as Voices and Choices, likely at the end of August. So if you have any questions there, certainly reach out to Wendy Mayfield, and she will be able to probably address your very specific question. So next, similarly, part of the COVID impact that you previously just alluded to is that there will no longer be 200 people in a building, something that we learned. And we need to maximize our footprint in physical spaces while keeping those we serve safe. So just last week, we shared with our staff, as well as our families, that our Lakeside Center building is up for sale. It was emphasized that the Lakeside Center program isn't closing. Rather, we are looking for a more appropriate facility in Lake County that will better serve our staff and our clients. So Sean, how did COVID help set this in motion? And is there anything that you want to reassure our staff and families that Lakeside is in fact staying, just possibly in a new facility?
Sure, Tina, the idea about Lakeside and the potential sale or non-use of that facility started long before the pandemic. And the pandemic, once we shut down almost completely, gave the opportunity to really reassess a couple things. I think one of the things that Kelly and team will have been promoting, and it cuts across our organization, is right people, right services, right environment. There's no question about the people that we serve at Lakeside, including our staff. They're top-notch, high quality, exceptional. There no question about their commitment to service, and that the services offered, given the conditions that they face, were very good. But none of us felt good about that environment. I'll share a story. Our development team had invited one of our donors to visit Lakeside with the intent that he, through his foundation, might donate some money to help with renovation. Unfortunately, he got there before I did and was able to kind of take his tour and talk to some people. And when I got there, I noticed he was very curt. And he said, Sean, from all that I know of you in Little City, I don't understand why you own a building like this, and that there's no way that I would invest in, again, the building. You love the people, etc. And so we've struggled, Tina, with that idea of, can we find a better place to deservedly serve the individuals in Lake County? And the answer is yes. And so what the board has tasked myself and Bill Brennan and Kelly and team with is finding the right environment to serve those very special people. And so that's the real driver. And so, you know, you'll see a for sale sign. It's selling the building itself, but not selling what it is that we do there. So we are looking for a better setting that's more reflective of our commitment to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Still planning to reside in Lake County, preferably in an area that still allows our staff access. I don't want to move it too far away from them. They are our most vital resource. We need our staff. And so they will be highly considered as we look for the right setting to move our Lakeside program.
And this is also something that likely could just take quite a long time, right?
It could, or not. And so we want to be prepared. We've had some inquiries by some organizations who believe that the types of services they offer could fit there. So Tina, it could happen. It could take some time, or it may not if Bill finds a buyer who's interested in getting in. Now, the good news there, you know, I think as we move along, there are available sites out there, you know, so the pandemic has had an effect on commercial real estate and the like. So I don't think, Tina, it's going to be a problem finding that next environment. The challenge may be, how soon do we wish to vacate? Because, you know, I've challenged Kelly that even if we don't have a buyer, we still need to look as soon as we can, as fast as we can, to get the people we serve into the right setting. So I don't want to make it contingent. So I'll challenge Bill and Chris and company with a way to finance it, and Jane a way to raise the money in addition to the 100 other things she's doing. But we need to get our people out of the Lakeside Center as it exists into something that's more reflective of who they are and what they can do, and start, you know, adjusting our program in that regard.
Okay, and so then if anybody has any very specific questions about Lakeside Center, they can certainly reach out to Casey Burke or Wendy Mayfield. So let's talk about where we are today and the phases we've gone through this past year. As I mentioned earlier, programs and buildings have gradually reopened. And one of the latter stages of our reopening has been allowing visitors into our buildings. Throughout the past 15 months, we've been closely following the guidance from the CDC. And Tony is asking, when will parents be able to re-enter the homes of their loved ones? And Michael wants to know, when will Little City open up to in-home visits? So I'm just going to take this really quickly. Again, they're just kind of some bullet points that I wanted to hopefully clarify for those family members that don't know the details. But so for our adult residential program, They began in-home visitations in the beginning of June, actually. And for now, those visitations have guidelines, and those guidelines, in brief, they're 1 hour long visitations in the CLFs and 30 minutes in the CILAs due to home configurations. They're all going to be scheduled visitations with no drop-ins, and visitors must be well with no symptoms of illness. Keep in mind that this is all in addition to our outdoor and our community off-campus home visits that we have been doing since mid-year 2020. And our children's group homes, we are anticipating in-home visitations with very similar protocol to begin within the next week or two. However, one important aspect to note is that families will be able to enter their children's homes to see their bedrooms for pickup and drop-offs. But if families do not plan on picking up their loved one, they will be able to schedule visitations at one location only. And we are setting aside our Banyan home for those visitations, and everything is in order to have a very successful visits with your loved one. A communication outlining the specific details will be distributed this week, so be on the lookout for that. And we are excited as we're taking this next step. Okay, so I believe some questions I see have been chatted in. Jane, thank you again for joining us and monitoring those. So if you are receiving those, could you share one or two for Sean?
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your questions. Sean, I have one for you right now from one of our Little City residents that lives in the SLA program. So he or she is wondering when they can take off their masks.
As Tina referenced, we are following CDC IDPH guidelines, and SLA, CLF, and our CILA homes are still considered congregate environments. And so as such, it is asked that people continue to wear their masks. Now, what we've also not done, we're on kind of an honor system as it relates to vaccinations. And so we want to be very mindful of that we don't expose our individuals to people who have not been, we're not making vaccinations the condition for coming on. We're hoping that people who do attend will have at least been vaccinated and make every effort to do so. So I'm hopeful for my SLA friends that very soon, as IDPH and CDC kind of assesses, particularly if these are individuals, and I don't know how many of our SLA residents are vaccinated. I'll have, if Teresa's on or Kelly's on, they can let me know, but that's going to be, we'll definitely weigh that in and try and make it where they're mask free as soon as possible. So at this point, out of an abundance of caution, Jane, we're still asking that they comply.
That's great. And please feel free to keep asking questions. Just chat them into the live Q&A. So Sean, while we were talking about the SLA, what's going on with the SLA and what might be happening in the future? That was one of the questions.
And Jane, I'll answer that kind of in the context of all of our residential offerings. And, not too long ago, as part of our strategic plan, Kelly and her team talked about adult residential transformation. And the whole concept behind that, which again gets into right people, right service, right environment, is that a number of people that we serve have their needs have extended beyond the capabilities of that environment that they're in. And so when Little City's residential model was first envisioned, the CLF, for example, was to be a transitional environment, was to get you ready for, adult life more independently. The SLA took on a very similar role in terms of a supportive living, not going to be heavily staffed. And it was expected that the people who resided there could achieve and maintain an exceptional level of independence. Well, as we all know, and some of us, as we age, We know that our bodies and minds change and that the needs and environments that we live in may not be appropriate. As my wife and I look to, life well into retirement, a two-story home is not as appealing as it was when we had the kids running around and we wanted space. It's no different in the environments that we serve. And so what we're doing with the SLA is making sure that it's put to its highest and best use. That the people who reside there are fully benefiting to the degree possible with that setting. But it also means that we have to look at it with a fresh light because the SLA is an environment that you can't close and open up again. You will not see any environment like that newly created in the state of Illinois. And so it is one that we're going to continuously assess, Jane, where does it fit as we begin to look at the future of our campus setting. But always with the mind of that we're going to engage those families and individuals with any choice that we make to make sure that their thoughts and their hopes and wishes are also being taken into account. So at this point, there is no plan to close it, but we will continue to assess who lives there, is it the best place for them to be, and can we do it better?
But thanks for that. One last question for now, Sean, is, switching gears a little bit. We have a question about what is Little City's management doing regarding evaluation of new intakes? And I'm thinking this has more to do with the children's high intensity program.
Well, I think, Jane, it could actually apply to both. And let me, kind of address it from this perspective. Both Rich and Kelly and their teams of both Pat on the children's side and Lori on the adult side, the referrals that they will get that are prioritized are people who have rather significant needs, whether or not that's on a medical spectrum, a behavioral spectrum, or both. And so what we will see and always have to wrestle with is individuals coming into 24-hour care services who will have substantial needs. Now, on the children's side, the model that we have presented to the state of Illinois and it's been accepted is really a three-tiered model, of which on one end of that spectrum are kids with or youth with significant behavioral needs, which we labeled high intensity. And there's a more appropriate act, but these are kids whose needs, who were, if they were not at Little City, would be in some controlled setting that doesn't allow them the same opportunities for growth and development. And so there are 2 homes being devoted to that cause. Both State Board of Education, DCFS, and DHS are investing, and each have asked for at least 2 people that they can place into that setting. They've also asked us, Jane, to consider opening additional homes on our campus. So when we first were configuring the Duffy Family Children's Village, there was some question about the future use of the older facilities. Right now, Rich and team can't convert those buildings over fast enough to meet the demand that the state of Illinois is placing on us to begin to serve more kids with high intensity needs. And so that does require a different staffing component by way of numbers and skills and knowledge, skills and abilities, a different physical setting, and even school space that might be separate or different from. We also have our core program, and that's where those individuals who are, I don't want to call it typical developmental disabilities because there is no such thing, but those are the kids that we have historically dealt with. Our programs will provide very customized and I think quality service for them. But we also have a group of people on the opposite end of the spectrum which have lesser intense needs that we're going to design program opportunities for them also. When you flip over the ARS, they're faced with a very similar challenge, that there are people who, as they advance in age and the like, are presenting problems or challenges far different than they did in other stages of life. And so the ARS transformation is trying to come up with settings that are appropriate to meet the needs. So with our intake, what has to happen is we've got to make sure that we have the right setting to meet that individual's needs. So we're not pushing the staff to our intake staff to just accept anyone. We want to make sure that there's good alignment, but keeping in mind, particularly with the kids, the referrals that are coming in are going to be kids with significant challenges by design.
And there's one last question, if you don't mind, Sean. That one of the viewers is wondering, if the day programs are wondering, what's going on with the kids programs? Is there swimming in the rec center opening or other programs? And it sounds like she was wondering, she hasn't seen a lot of kids just walking around campus.
They are definitely walking around, but not that I can guarantee you. Our rec staff are ramping up again. So I do think, which, as we begin to move into the summer, you will see evidence of our Special Olympics and other programs coming more and more online. So she's right. If you look for the January through June, there wasn't a lot of utilization of those facilities for a number of reasons. So we are moving. I think Rich and particularly will be sharing some information about the types of day services we will be reopening particularly during the summer months. So the person who raised the question is absolutely right. There has been a slow up, but it is going to be picking up. Won't be like the city of Chicago where we just say on this day everything is open. We will always remain cautious, but we definitely know that the more active our individuals are, the less the behavioral episodes, the greater the growth, and we want to get them back into their programs as soon as possible.
Thanks, Jane. And obviously, if any other questions come in, please feel free to address those. I can't see them coming in. Okay, so Sean, obviously, thank you for answering those questions so thoroughly. Whether they're related to COVID or not, we're obviously seeing changes at Little City every day. And when we are thinking about what lies ahead for Little City, we all know we want the future to be one that is full of opportunities for the people we serve, whether it's going out into the community or opening up our day programming. And this past year has been nothing short of challenging. But Sean, when you came to Little City, you said 18 years ago, the agency at that time was facing unique challenges. We overcame those challenges, but obviously nothing is without hurdles. So my question to you is, COVID or not, what is your greatest concern or highest priority facing Little City right now?
So, and Tina, I appreciate how you frame that question. And when I compare the Little City I walked into 18 years ago and the Little City now, there are some similarities. One of the similarities is we were operating in an environment of fear, but the fear was different. And 18 years ago, the fear was that we would have to close our doors. It was bankruptcy. We were burning through money, and there didn't seem to be an end or a stop. We lost, many key people. And so what we're able to do then was reinvest in the mission, kind of right the ship and move forward. What's happening now, and I think what makes it very different, yes, we are at a very precarious point, but it's not one where there's an absence of vision or absence of direction. It's an absence of people to help us carry it out. We need staff. That is the greatest impediment to our survival and growth, is our ability to acquire and retain the workforce is necessary for the work that we do. And so, if the thing I struggle with is how can we meet that demand by way of our human resources? And all of that, Tina, comes together because without meeting that demand, your marketing, Jane's fundraising is ineffective because we're not meeting our program objectives. People give to bright futures. They don't give to deficits. And so we've got to get people in to help meet that demand for services that's out there. The possibility of our growth is almost endless. Whether or not it's foster care adoption, whether or not it's the school program, even as we look at day services, Lori will attest that she's getting referrals for people to come in. We want to first deal with those who were part of the Little City family to this point before we start opening up for people who are outside of Little City family. Residential from Ola and Kelly and Joanne and team, they could fill every syllabus plus more. But if we don't have the staff, Tina, to do it, there's no Little City. And so our direct care staff are our backbone. And so what I do want, 18 years ago, our families rallied and fought to get things right. We're going to need that same energy, Tina, as we come out of this pandemic. It's not a moment to be complacent. We need that energy. We need their voice. We need their input. We need their assistance. And that's what, I really think is going to make the difference. We got to fill those staff positions. We've got to give our donors something to get excited about and bring more to us. And we all hands on deck right now. This is not a moment to sit back.
Sean, this crisis, this DSP staffing crisis, this isn't unique to Little City.
No, it's a national crisis, and everyone has many people have a theory about why, but I do believe that our greatest source for recruitment success is people to people. And so I'm hoping that the people on this call and as they engage with others, when you see people who you believe can make a difference in Little City, please direct them to us. And so I am optimistic, Tina. We're beginning to see an uptick in our HR activity. So it's telling us maybe it's, as the summer comes around or the like, or as the economy changes, but we are beginning to see more people applying and expressing interest. But we got to keep getting the word out. This is, when in discussion with my peers, it's the same, whether or not it's Clearbrook or Misericordia. We all are faced with one of the most significant staffing crises that we've ever, in my lifetime, or my work time in particularly, we've ever experienced. And so with that, what becomes vitally important is we don't lose staff. And so that's the other place that as fast as we get them in, if we lose them, there's no gain. And so we do want to make sure that we do everything we can do to recognize and support our existing people so that they don't go somewhere else.
Sean, like you said, our staff they are our lifeline, or you said our backbone to the organization. They care for our participants in such a challenging way. Obviously, we can't move forward without these workers. It's a challenge, just like you said, nationwide with our peers. I pulled up a stat that currently we have 129 open positions. The vast majority of those openings are DSPs, LSIs, and those individuals that work directly with those in our care. And Heather, so along the same vein, she wants to know what is being done to address the staffing crisis and improve employee retention. What is Little City doing?
Well, we're clearly, if you go into our HR office, we've almost doubled the number of recruiters. And those recruiters are looking at every vehicle possible, excuse me, from attendance at job fairs to social media to any, I'm sure they're willing to knock on doors, and I even volunteered to put one of those placards over myself and stand on one of the busy intersections and the like. So we're looking at everything possible to try and get the word out about the career opportunities for Little City. So I know your office, Tina, is working on marketing campaigns and ways of expressing what is the value of doing this work. And so we are not going to leave any stone unturned in terms of making sure that we've done from a marketing promotion perspective Little City. We're trying to streamline the application process. HR just introduced a hire on site component that you meet, you do the basic checks and almost able to commit, pending all the other things that we have to do from background check and the like. But we want to let people know, instead of go home, we'll call you back in 2 weeks, how can we speed up the process of decision making? Because we're in a competitive environment. People who are applying for us are probably applying to 10 other people. And so we're trying to improve our HR practices in a way that can really speed up the process in getting people through the door. On the employee retention side, even earlier today, I was on the call with Cherie and Rich on looking at ways, because our staff are getting tired, working long hours and working with complex people. So we are looking at some employee recognition activities, some referral bonuses that we put out there to, help have our workers help us find people. And so by incentivizing them, going out and asking others. So we are going to look at, a number of recognition activities, and hope to involve our families. Sometimes just saying thank you to people goes a long way. And so where we can monetize it and see a good return, but also do some of the low tech, just positive engagement, get out there, particularly over that last year, we have very little external contact with our staff. They've worked alone for the most part. And so we are looking for ideas on that some people on this call may have as further ways that we can encourage, promote, keep our staff engaged. So our staff engagement activities are going to increase, particularly over the next 6 months to a year.
Thank you, Sean. Jane, have any other questions come in?
Sorry. Yeah, when we refers back to when we were talking about the rec center and the SLA. So one parent wants to know, are there activities in the rec center going on for the adults? I think we spoke specifically about the children and their use of the rec program. And
Jane, I can't answer that. This is one that we'll have Kelly and team specific to that. We'll just, Tina, as before, we'll publish those answers. So my contact on the campus has been extremely limited. Yep. And so I'm hoping that the times have been on, I've seen more people in the horticultural center. I've seen more people kind of moving about, but I'm not aware of anything formal that's taken place in the rec center involving our adults. Yeah. And I think that's important. There's a few other sort of very specific questions, and we will capture all of them and reply to them specifically to you.
Thank you. And then also just to reemphasize that if you have a question after the fact, you can just email it to us at info@littlecity.org and we will respond. Okay, so if nothing else has come through, I just want to talk about how I referenced earlier that this week on Monday, we successfully hosted our annual golf invitational in person to a full crowd, the biggest crowd I've ever seen at LCI. It was encouraging to witness so much support as we navigate the other side of the pandemic. And with that being said, We need the engagement and support of our staff, as well as our families, now more than ever. We have some exciting opportunities approaching, so I'm going to have Jane address those, as well as additional ways to help, because as always, we've had parents just asking, how can I help?
So thank you for that, Tina. As we are going back to, as Tina and Sean have mentioned, our live events are back. Just this Monday, hosted one of our most successful golf outings. 200 golfers, 250 people stayed for dinner, and Mr. John Duffy himself came in and spoke to the crowd, talking about the great opportunities and his great support for the completion of the Duffy Children's Village. It was a phenomenal event, and one of the biggest ones that we've seen in a long, long time. That particular event raised more money than it has in several years. So we are thankful to everyone who participated, everyone who golfed at that event. So it's hopefully an excitement. It was just people are ready to do things. And while not all of us are golfers, there are many things that you can do to help. We do have an upcoming Heroes Walk on October 2nd. This is a great way for families to get together, to create teams, to fundraise and friend raise for Little City. We know that not everyone can write a very large check, but if we all reach out to 10 of our friends or 20 of our friends and tell them about all the great work that Little City does, and ask them to help. Bring them out to walk to that event on October 2nd. It will be at Bussey Woods, and information will be hitting your mailboxes shortly on that. But if you can't wait a couple weeks to get started, you can register online at littlecity.org/Hero Walk. As Tina said, the live events are coming back, so our next sort of our next poker event, which we canceled one of them. It's hard to remember how many events we canceled last year, Tina. So our popular poker and casino night will be October 15th, and you can find more information there at littlecity.org/poker. And not on this slide, I just want to mention that we had to cancel 2 of our gala events, our largest fundraisers of the past 2 years. So we're excited that it has been rescheduled to May 2022. But not having all of those events have really made it hard this year. So really just anyone that could help out, whether it's donating to Little City, whether it's participating in one of our walks and asking your friends to join you in the participation and support of Little City, coming to a poker event. These are all great ways. We will be opening up opportunities for volunteering opportunities to open up outdoors on campus. So those of you that are love to garden, we are looking for individuals and groups, and whether it's a church group or a corporate group, we're inviting people back on campus, outside and safe, to once again help us beautify the campus. And we are also looking for volunteer opportunities for people to adopt a Scylla, which that program we will be launching very soon, starting outside as we tiptoe back into this new world that we live in, looking for ways to sort of, perhaps plant flowers so that our residents in the Scylla can enjoy. So feel free to email me. Would love to talk to anyone about this, especially the Hero Walk. I think this is a great opportunity for families and staff to get involved. Join the committee. It's a great way to connect with other families. So hopefully we will all be in person soon and we can talk about this and celebrate in Bussey Woods October 2nd. Thank you, Tina.
Sure. And before you get to the next slide, I want to reinforce what Jane and Sean had said. So earlier, Sean mentioned that, we went from really a critical stage to guarded when we were talking about the financial status of Little City. And ultimately, we're coming out of this because of our donors. They're the ones that are helping us in our sustainability. So without your support at the walk, at our events, or just the tremendous generosity that we've received this past year in donations, we wouldn't be where we are. Literally every single dollar matters. So, thank you all. Thank you to our staff for continuing to support us, as well as our families who are in it with us. So let's get, Jane, is there anything else you wanted to talk about regarding ways to support Little City? I know we're coming up on the hour.
Yes, yeah, I want to be respectful of time. Everyone probably received a invitation to help us fund the adult residential gap. So if we're, looking at, some of the things that there's progress being made in the state of Illinois, but we are still ranked 47th in the country for the providing for services in the United States. Sean and Tina's talked that we moved from critical to guarded. And so what our donors fill in our adult programs is really, there's a gap of government spending that we have to rely on our donors. That's about $12,500 per adult resident is our fundraising goal for our adult programs, just the programs. That's not investment into homes and buildings and things like that. This is really direct service programs. And we're not alone in this. I was recently at an event with one of our peer organizations, and they were talking about their gap of $13,500 per adult resident. So this is something that we all struggle with as a system-wide, especially in the state of Illinois. So this is why we need you all more than ever. We are always advocating and, working with our industry partners to advocate for more state funding and making progress there. But, even if we go from 47 to 45th, we still got a long way to go. So anything that you can do to participate to really help us close that adult services gap per resident is greatly appreciated, and then can move us from, critical to guarded, and then really investing for our future, looking for ways that we can really add more significant programs in the future. So thank you for reminding me of this, Tina.
No problem. We're going to go just a couple minutes over. I promise not too much over. I was able to pull up the live Q&A. I just wanted to address real quick, Olivia had asked when we're allowed to visit our kids' room. If you had maybe joined a little later, we did cover that. So if your son or daughter is in the children's group homes, that communication will be going out this week. And visitations will be allowed in the next week or so with just some protocol that will be communicated. With adult residential, that is already going on. Again, just be on the lookout for that communication later this week. Okay, so as we're closing, I'm just going to ask Sean if he has any closing remarks, because I know he does.
No, okay. No, I think Jane has hit it. If we can envision three pipelines, Tina, and one pipeline is fueling or feeding our NEPA staff. I think we've got another pipeline is getting us access. Even if you can't give, you may know someone who can give, and we're willing to knock on every door and ring every phone in your behalf or with you. You can join us in that regard. So don't hesitate when you know of people who have the ability to give, help connect us. And in the other place that, we want you, we need your voice. Our mission is driven by your advocacy, your pushing to make things better. And we will be bringing on staff very soon, a person whose job will be focused around helping us in our legislative affairs advocacy arena. So he or she will be trying to engage our families in a different way. This is a time not to be complacent or to exhale and say, okay, we're out of it. Let's just kick back and relax. We need everyone on this call and beyond to get fired up, to help. We need your energy to keep pushing this thing forward. So Tina, that's all I ask of people. Give a damn, give more than a damn, give a double damn. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sean, and thank you, Jane. The past 15 months have been nothing short of a roller coaster for sure. Our very first town hall, Sean, you confidently said that we would come out of this stronger, and I truly have no doubt that that is the case. I can see it. And as we close, please just stay on for 3 more minutes for a brief video to see firsthand why our staff work at Little City. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Every day is a different day, but you're in pursuit of helping change or make someone's life tremendously better.
I've been given the trust, I've been given the accountability and the responsibility to work with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
I've met a lot of different people. I've formed a lot of beautiful relationships with the clients we serve.
Teach them how to get job skills and how to go into the job market and prepare themselves to get a job after they leave us.
When you have a team of people around you that have the knowledge, ability, and passion to truly make an impact in kids' lives, and you see the difference you can make each day.
As long as we're breathing, we can make a difference in someone's life.
My name is Junior Figueroa. I've been at Little City for about 7 years now.
Ellen Salisbury, and I've been working here at Little City for 27 years.
Vince Williams. I've been working at Little City for 37 years.
Hi, I'm Megan Grapp. I've been working at Little City for almost 7 years.
Hi, my name is Trevor Roberts. I've been in Little City for almost 20 years now.
My name is Jessica Kinji. I've been at Little City for just over 9 years.
Teresa Makinde George. I've been working for Little City for 13 years.
Sean Jeffers, Executive Director, and this has been 18 wonderful years.
I work here at Little City because I love the kids here.
It makes me feel good knowing that I play a part in getting the clients we serve out in the community, whether it's grocery shopping, movie night, or going to church on a Sunday.
I like the fact, well, I love the fact that this place was founded by people who got together, family and friends, to build a place for special needs.
Working for Little City within this organization is quite great.
Been at Little City for 20 years because it's been like a second family to me.
I've stayed at Little City for 13 years because it's a rewarding place, it's a good place to work with. They care about their staff.
So interesting enough, I left Little City to find a job closer to my house and came back just 2 months later because what I realized was different about our organization is the love and trauma-informed care that we have.
We need to have more people that understand what's going on inside of a place like Little City. That way you can continue to bring in more staff, have more resources for our population.
What I have witnessed at Little City that I enjoy the most is when we bring new people in as employees, and they don't know if they're going to make a difference or how they're going to make a difference. And then I look out and see what they've accomplished. I've seen people who come to Little City who are now serving as executive directors, who are running major programs, that something that we do has made their life better.